Well, hi everybody, and I'm so happy to be here as part of the B&H Photo Optic, and we have got a class for you on, it's called my top landscape and outdoor post-processing tricks. But I have a very limited amount of time. So I was trying to do 10, like my top 10. I'm thinking maybe this will be my best 8. Or maybe my best 7, but I'm gonna try to get through as many of as we can. I have more than we need, we'll have more than we're gonna get to. So we'll just call it and make it kind of nebulous. A loose number of really handy, the techniques I'm gonna show you are the stuff that I use in my own studio all the time, every day. So I hope this is stuff that you find handy. I'm working on a Mac laptop with a Wacom Intuos Pro. So this is the Intuos Pro Medium. So I have a medium and I have a small. The small goes with me because it fits in my laptop bag, and they're quite awesome. As I'm sure that many of you know already, it's kind of a tool used by very, very many photographers. And kind of once you use a pen, you can't go back to using a mouse. Yeah, the 90s called and said, "Hey, we want our mouse back." It's like, so anyway, but this is what we use. All right, so let's start off with this first image. Let's go ahead and do this. So it's got a bad foreground. It's not an awesome shot. So I'm starting in Lightroom. We're gonna jump real quick over to Photoshop. I'm gonna do a little thing there. So to jump over to Photoshop from Lightroom, because they were born to work together, you press Command E on a Macintosh or Control E on a Windows machine, and it just takes a copy of your image over there. And we're going to work on a copy, so you don't ever have to worry about messing up your original image back inside of Lightroom. All right, let's go over to Photoshop over here. All right, here's the image in Photoshop. So here's what we're going to do, which is something quite simple. We're going to take the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to select all the way down to basically the bottom of the mountain. So something like that, right along the bottom edge of the mountain. Now, I need to get that particular area up on its own layer. Like I needed just that part on a separate layer. The way we do that, there's a keyboard shortcut. It's Command J on Macintosh or Control J on a Windows PC, and it just puts it up on its own layer. So let's go ahead and do that. And here, what you have is this. There it is. You've got half of the image up on its own layer. Now, we're going to go to that part of Photoshop that lets you do all kinds of stuff. It's free transform. Command T on Mac is the shortcut. On Windows, it's Control T. And if you right click, you can see all the things you could do now. You can change the size and you can rotate it. You can skew it to the left or to the right. You can just do all this terrible stuff. We're going to go all the way to the bottom to flip vertical. All right, to flip vertical. It's going to flip our image upside down, and you hit Return or Enter to lock in your change. Now, here we go. We're going to create a reflection. We're going to hold the Shift key, drag straight down, and what? No, yes, yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's a mirror-like reflection. Now, you're thinking, that's cheating. Yes, it is. And does everybody do it? Yes, they do. It's done by so many photographers that you look up to, including photographers here at Optic, and you're thinking, man, that looks really good. I'm sure it's real. Sometimes it is, not as much as you'd think. Let's move on. Here's what I do next to make sure that it looks more realistic. First is we need to darken that reflection. So an easy way to do it, you can go to levels or curves or whatever you like to do. I'll tell you what I do to darken it. I go up under the filter menu to Camera Raw Filter. So it brings up the Develop module from Lightroom inside of Photoshop. It's just called the Camera Raw plugin, but look, it's the same sliders in the same order as Lightroom that do the exact same things using the exact same math. So I'm going to go to exposure, just darken this way up, and then click OK. So I just drag the exposure slider to the left to darken it, almost 2 stops, click OK. And so you can see here's a before and after how much darker I made it. All right. Now, the last one, a little finishing move, makes a big difference. We're going to slightly blur the water. So we're going to go Filter, Blur, and go over to Motion Blur. And then what you do is you aim the angle of the blur straight up and down, and then you decide how much blur you want. You can have a ton of blur or just a little bit of blur. I'm going to have just enough to where it doesn't look so obvious that it's like a super glassy mirror-like reflection. And there you go, and you're done. So there's a quick reflection trick. Okay, I got to keep moving because lots of stuff, little amount of time. All right, how about some sky tricks? All right, I got a bunch of them. I'm going to give you 4 sky tricks, and I won't count that against the overall number. So first, let's look at this one. Now, I'm going to do this one all in Lightroom, but you can do it also in Camera Raw and Photoshop. But here's the thing. This is a typical situation where if I had an ND filter, I probably would have put it on my camera. If I'd had a nice neutral density gradient filter, graduated filter, I would have put it on. But I didn't. So what I've got is a backlit mountain and the sky's washed out. This is typical. You've seen this a million times yourself. And you might go and put a neutral density gradient on here in Lightroom, and we'll talk about that a little later. But I have another trick. The trick is this. I'm going to tell you what it is, and then we'll do it. Instead, I lower the exposure until the sky looks awesome. So I lowered it so the entire sky looks great. And then what I wind up with, of course, is the mountains are dark. Well, they're backlit anyway. And then I just go fix that problem. So I fix the biggest problem, the sky, and then I have some little mini problems to fix. But it's easy, and this works surprisingly well. So go to the exposure slider and just drag it to the left until the sky looks awesome. There we go. Now the sky looks pretty good. So then I'll go to shadows. I'll open that area up. All right. And then I do an exposure trick. The exposure trick sets your white point and your black point for you, and it does a really good job. It expands the tonal range, and all you got to know is the secret handshake. You hold shift. Hold shift and double click right on the word whites and then right on the word blacks. And that sets your white point and your black point for you. And it made it a little bright. I think I could actually take my whole exposure down just a little bit now. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm moving the wrong slider. Here we go. Move the whole exposure down just a little bit. All right, well, what do you have to do left? Let's increase the texture, right? That brings out detail. Let's increase the clarity. Why do I add clarity after I just did it? Clarity makes your water shiny. It makes metal shiny, it makes water shiny. So watch when I add the clarity. Look at the clarity, how it makes the water shiny. And really, I just add maybe a little contrast and we're done. So here's a before and after. And you can see how that trick of just darkening the sky and then making the rest of the adjustments. I use it all the time and it works really, really well. All right, I want to give you another sky trick. Let's move on. This one, this is another sky, as you've probably noticed. Let's do this. Go over here, and to get more blue in the sky, make the sky bluer and richer, there's a trick. Go down here to the HSL panel, and there's 3 tabs, hue, saturation. You want to click on luminance. Go over here to the blues and just drag the blue slider, just the blue slider, to the left, all right? So just drag it to the left. What? Yep. Look at that. This is one that I use quite a bit. So you're basically just, that's it. You're just going to drag the slider to the left and you're done. I wish I could tell you more, but that's it. Okay, so that's that one. Tip number 3, really, really simple one. And I do this, I would say, in almost every landscape and outdoor and travel photo that has a sky in it. And it's going to sound like it messes up your photo. 99% of the time you won't notice any difference but in the sky. And that is, I take my highlights to -100. What does that do? It makes the sky usually a bit bluer. It makes the clouds have more detail, and it gets rid of any clipping, and it makes your sky look better. It's a trick I've been using for years. I get emails from people that say, I've been doing that, it's awesome. So just go here to the basic panel, go to the highlight slider, drag it to -100. You can see in the image on screen, look what it did. It brought back definition to the sky's bluer, there's more definition, the clouds have more definition. I do this a lot. Just give it a try. Don't just poo-poo it. Start trying it, and you're gonna find out that the brightest parts of your images are almost, or landscape images, are almost always going to be in the sky. So dropping to 100 doesn't affect the rest of the image. Just give it a try. The next one, this next one's a miracle. All right. So spent 4 days in Monument Valley, never saw a cloud the entire time. Heartbreaking. But you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to jump it over to Photoshop. Recently, they added a new feature to Photoshop that actually works stunningly well. Go into the Edit menu and choose Sky Replacement. Now, well, first let's watch. Give it a second. Yeah. It automatically masks the foreground objects. It knows what they are. It knows where they are. It uses AI, and boom, it builds the masks. And it comes, Photoshop comes with a bunch of skies already. You can try out different skies if you want. No, let's try out a different one. Okay, that's not so bad. That's certainly better. That other one was kind of crazy. How's this one? That's not ideal. How's this one? That's really not too bad, though I think I like the first one we started with, so if I had to choose one of theirs. But here's the thing, don't use their skies, bring in your own skies. There's a little button at the bottom right here, there's a little square with a plus sign right there. Just click on that and bring in your own skies, because if not, everyone's gonna go, hey, I recognize that sky from Photoshop, so don't do that. But what's nice about this is not only does it put in a sky, but it also puts a little of the same like tonal color from the sky onto your foreground to unify the two. So you don't stick a blue sky on an image that has kind of a warm look to it. It actually would put some of that blue in there to make it look more realistic. And they've done a really great job with it. So I'm not gonna go through the ethics of sky replacement because I just taught you how to do a reflection that doesn't exist. This is way down the list of things that, you know. Okay, but anyway, I wanted to introduce you to sky if you're not familiar with it, because it's really simple. Just remember, the key is use your own skies. Okay, let's move on. This next one is a huge thing. The problem will probably start in Lightroom, but you got to jump over to Photoshop to fix it. But my gosh, it does a great job. It's glows. I see this all the time where you have glows around the image. Like let's look at this image on screen here. I'm going to zoom in here. Let's zoom way the heck in. See the glow? Look at that glow around the edges. I mean, I know I put it there. Sometimes it comes from too much contrast, too much sharpening, and there's all kinds of things that'll cause this little white glow around the edges of objects in your image. I can get rid of this. I'm going to show you a way to get rid of this so you can get rid of this so quickly. It's a Photoshop thing, but it's really easy. Jump over to Photoshop. Let's zoom in on that stuff. Here's what you got to do. We're going to use a tool that was in Photoshop 1.0, the clone stamp tool. But the problem is, if we just use the clone stamp tool like it normally works, right? We'll go over here, click on this ocean, and it'll just paint ocean over the rock. Not cool. You're going to change one setting. You're going to go up here to mode, change that mode to darken. Now when you click over here, hear me out. Now it only affects the pixels that are brighter than where you option click on a Mac or alt click on a Windows PC. So if you click in that ocean, when you go to paint, it will only affect pixels that are brighter than either the ocean or the rock. So what can it affect? The glow. That's it. So watch. So go next to it, option click on a Mac, paint, and look, the glow goes away. Look at that. It just goes, I just messed that up. Here we go. The glow is gone. Come on, people. Look at that. It's glow be gone. And what happens when you get up to these, you know, grass and stuff? It's gone there too. It goes right between the blades of grass. Come on now. That's slick. And you can get rid of those glows that I know have been bugging you. You know they're there. I know they're there. Nobody else is going to see them now because now you know how to get rid of them. All right, let's roll on. But glows, that's a big thing. And remember, just a reminder, the key was this thing right up here, darken. Switch it from normal mode to darken, and then that's the trick. Okay, let's go back to Lightroom and see what's next. All right, so this one is one that I've been burned with so many times. Look on screen, look at the image, and here, let me just close this side panel over here. All right, and we'll make the image a little bigger. Hold on, my Lightroom is just being, it's being awful, to be honest with you. All right, there we go. Can I just, yeah, hit that, hit fit. Now close it. Okay, all right. You see the spots in the sky, right? Sensor dust. How many do I have? 1, 2, I can see 3, 4. I can see 4 or 5 spots. So here's what happens. You get this done, maybe doing something for a client, you make a big print, the client calls you and says, are there supposed to be these spots in the sky? And you're like, I got rid of them all. They're so hard to see on a blue background. I've been burned so many times by making a print or doing a project and all, and people are emailing me or calling me or saying there's spots in the sky. Don't let that happen to you. Here's what you do. Go get the spot removal tool. When you get the spot removal tool, look down here in the bar at the bottom, the gray bar, there's a thing called visualize spots. Click on it and it does a negative of your photo. Drag the slider kind of over to the left until the spots really stand out. So now, how many spots do I have to fix? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, probably 12. And the nice thing is you can fix them right here. You can click right here and just get rid of them. Right there, just one click, and they're gone. So you can do it actually here so you don't get burned, right? There's one in that mountain there, but I'm afraid I want to go look at it and see if I do it, is it gonna mess me up? No, I picked a pretty good spot. Sometimes Lightroom picks a funky spot. By the way, here's a bonus tip. If Lightroom picks a bad spot when you click the spot removal tool, hit the slash key on your keyboard, the slash key where the question mark is, and it will actually pick a new spot. Look at it. Watch, I'm hitting the slash key. It will try different places until it comes with one that you like. Actually, I just saw a really good one a second ago. Just keep pressing it till it comes, there you go, till it comes to one you like. Okay, we got more, let's go. We got a lot to cover, a little time to do it. I might have mentioned that. All right. This next one is just a finishing move. It's something that I do to the end of almost every single photo I do, whether it's a portrait or whether it's a landscape or a travel or whatever. I add this little tiny finishing move. It is so subtle, you probably wouldn't know it was there unless you take it away. It's going to sound bad when I tell you about it, but it's actually really good. I'm going to give you the exact number I use. I'm going to go add a vignette. I know, vignettes look dated unless you put on so little that no one even knows you did it. The number we're going to use is a -11. That seems to be the magic number. So watch, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to go to effects. And I'm going to drag the amount slider to -11. And you're going to say, it didn't even do anything, Scott. All right, so there's -11. You're looking at the image. I don't think it did anything at all. Why do you even do it? I'm going to toggle it on and off so you can see. Watch. Look at that. It focuses the eye towards the middle. You don't even know I put a vignette on there, but there's so much bad stuff that happens at the edge of images. By darkening that in there a little bit, look at that. It really made a nice difference. I do it to every photo, -11, make it a preset. You do it for a week and you'll be like, gosh, I can't believe what a difference it makes. Just, it takes I call it taking the heat off the edges. And anyway, that's that one. Real quick one. All right. Moving on. So I mentioned neutral density gradient filters, right, earlier. So, and we would use that to darken the sky in a shot like this. But I'll tell you what the problem is. Let's grab the neutral density gradient. Let's double click the word effect. If you click the word effect, it resets all the sliders for you. So let's double click effect. And then I'm going to way darken it. All right. And I'll show you two tricks here. One is let's darken the sky down like we used in an actual ND. And the second thing is, and this is what I love, I'm going to show you two things that you can't do with a real ND that are better that you can do in Lightroom. The first one is this. You can go and add white balance. You can add blue into the sky. Like you can add a little bit of blue there. So if it's kind of looking dark, I can just add a little bit of blue using the temperature slider. But the problem with this whole thing hold on, looks like there's a smudge on there. Okay, there we go. Yeah, there was like a brush stroke on there or something. Okay, let's go back to our garage. All right, where is it? Right here. So the problem is that when I drag this down to darken the sky and have it look good, it also darkens these rocks and it darkens this part of the mountain, just like a real ND filter would. But what do we really want? We want to darken the sky. We want to have it graduate from dark to light, but we don't want to darken our foreground. Lightroom can fix that. Look at this. Go down to the bottom here to range mask and switch it on. You can try color, and then what you do is you grab the little eyedropper tool and say, yeah, don't do it in these colors, or don't do it in the sky. So watch. Did you see how it automatically, when I said these are the colors we need to do, it masked the whole thing for you. Look, the gradient no longer goes over the foreground object, right? Look, that's before. Click and drag, and look, it masked it. If you want to see the mask, hold the Option key and click on the amount bar. You can see and say, ooh, I need a little bit thicker mask. There we go. And look at that. Now you've got the sky. It's just graduated back there and not in the foreground. That is honestly pretty amazing. Those are two things that you can't do with an actual ND filter, because most of the time I go, you're better off to do it in camera if you can do it. This is a case where you're better off in Lightroom if you can do it, because it offers you things your ND cannot physically do. All right, it's a physics thing. Okay, next, look at this thing. This is not good. Okay, so I want to introduce you to a tool you may or may not use, but first off is if I want to get this looking better, anything would be better. I'm going to start by hitting the auto button. Now, 5 years ago, I would have never said use the auto button because we called it the overexposed button. You'd click and it made everything too bright. Today, it uses a new algorithm and it's not bad. It's not good, but it's okay. Let's try to add some contrast because this looks really flat. It's a little better. How about texture? Bring out some detail. Clarity, is that helping? Yeah, it's not so great. What's it missing? It's missing the magic slider, Dehaze. Now, you probably already know the Dehaze slider takes away haze, but what it also does is it introduces a huge color cast. It introduces a big blue color cast, which in some cases can be marvelous, and in some cases it can be bad. I'm going to show you how to deal with both. Watch what Dehaze does. I'm going to go to the Dehaze slider, drag it to the right, watch. What? No. Yes. Yes. Now, if you go too far, you're going to see a lot of noise and stuff, so don't go quite that far. All right, maybe right there. Now, if you like the blue, you're good. And in fact, I might even just drag just a tiny bit of magenta in there. Or if you want it more neutral, just come back and warm it up some. But what a huge difference that made. However, it did bring out the fact that there is a spot there, and a spot there, and a spot there. So I'm just going to have to fix those while we're there. All right, so I kind of liked it with the more bluer look, to be honest with you, but I just want to let you know, if you get that blue look, what you can do is either offset it by going to yellow, or you can go to the vibrance slider and lower it until the blue goes away and get you back to more of a neutral look, all right? In this case, I kind of like the way it looks, and here, let's take a look at a before and after. And what did it take us? 30 seconds, 60 seconds? Okay, it's good. It's only good that it was quick because we don't have much time. Okay. Let's roll on. Here is another way we're going to use Dehaze. This is the dark woods, the dark forest. I can't remember what it's called. It's in Ireland. I was there, and so we're a bunch of Instagrammers. The dark hedges. That's it. Okay. The one thing that I have in my earlier photos when I got there before dawn, is there was nice mist, and then the mist burned off as soon as the sun started to come up. You can bring back your mist. Go over here to Dehaze. Wait a minute, I thought that takes away haze. It does. If you drag to the right, if you drag to the left, it brings in haze. Now, it's not quite as much haze as I'd want. Here's how to get a second layer of haze. Go to the adjustment brush, take Dehaze down to 0, and then also lower the clarity, and that will also make it softer. So, whoops, I got some exposure in there too. We don't want the exposure. Now we can go in here and paint in some more hazy stuff. I call it hazy stuff. So a lot of clarity, and Dehaze kind of gives it that. So look at the difference between the left and the right. It gets that kind of hazy look. All right, so there. Do we have time for another one? I think we do. All right, so this last one I want to give you is I was talking about exposure earlier, and that I use that white and black thing. So here's what I want to show you. If I take a photo and I just use the exposure slider, it looks kind of meh. By adding that shift, double click the whites, shift, double click the blacks, I think that little triangle, shift, double click, and you actually, in Lightroom, you can click on the word whites and click on the word blacks. I'm going to go to the second image. It's the same exact image. I'm going to hold the shift key. I'm going to shift, double click whites, shift, double click blacks, and then I can go to exposure, and I'm just going to nudge it. If I think it's a little too dark, I'll nudge it to the right. But look at the difference. Here's just exposure. Here's whites, blacks, and exposure. That's the triangle I use to set my exposure every day. Shift, double click whites, shift, double click blacks. And then, because this one, it still looks like it's flat, right? This is just the exposure one. Look, just exposure. Then I'm going to switch to the other one. And look how much better it looks. So this one looks kind of flat. It almost looks like you were looking at a dirty window. And then when you do the shift, double click whites, shift, double click blacks, and then the exposure slider now becomes a fine-tuning slider. So instead of making it your whole exposure, you're going to go, oh, I want it a little darker, and you're just going to move it the smallest amounts, but it makes the biggest difference. All right, guys, we have 25 seconds left. I can't believe I got through like all of the 10 things that I wanted to do. It was very expedient, but I'm sure that B&H will give you an opportunity to watch this again online. So thank you, guys. Thank you for allowing me to share some of my favorite post-processing tips for outdoor and landscape stuff. And Take care, everybody, and thanks again to my friends at B&H Photo, greatest camera store in the world.